Good evening, namaste, shalom. I am Jagdish Sewhani, founding president of the American India Public Affairs Committee, focused on advancing relationship, advocating ties, focused on better relationship between US and India, and people-to-people ties between the US and India. As a friend of Israel, we also highlight Israel's close ties with India and need for closer US, Israel, and India cooperation during our advocacy engagements. I am very grateful to Randhir Jaiswal, Consul General of India in New York, and Mrs. Peggy Shapiro, prominent national Jewish American leader of Stand With Us, for joining us in our virtual program this evening, marking the 20th anniversary of the death of Daniel Pearl. On this day, 20 years ago, Daniel Pearl was beheaded in Pakistan by Islamic terrorists. In Danny's memory, may I request all of you to observe 1 minute of silence. Om Shanti. Daniel Pearl was born in New Jersey and did his BA from Stanford University. A sincere, honest, and dedicated young journalist, he was chief of South Asia Bureau for Wall Street Journal, and he was based in India. He was based at his profession, at home, and in his community. He was kidnapped and later killed in Pakistan when he went to Pakistan for investigating the alleged links between British citizen shoe bomber and Al-Qaeda. His murderers singled him out because he was Jew. For those of us that saw his last video message before being killed, it was very emotional to watch his statement when he said, "My father is Jewish, my mother is Jewish, and I am Jewish." India and Israel share a special bond, and this year is very special. This year is 30 years of friendship between India and Israel. As some of you know, India is home to an ancient 2,000-year-old Jewish community that never faced any anti-Semitism. In fact, after the destruction of the second Jewish temple in Jerusalem, the first Jewish principality in the world was established in India, given by the Hindu king of Musri's. Next time, when you fly out of JFK Terminal 4 on your Air India flight or LL flight, please go to the synagogue in that terminal, where you will find the replicas of the copper plates with this decree by the Hindu king of Musri's. The original copper plates are preserved in Israel Museum in Jerusalem. Also, less known is the fact that today, after the US, Israel's second most important bilateral relationships are its relationship with India. The majority of Indians express their strong support for Israel. Similar affection and support for Israel and the Jewish people exist among our 4 million strong Indian American community. Through today's platform, I would once again like to reiterate our Indian American communities and India's strong support for the Jewish community against both domestic and international anti-Semitism and hate that our Jewish brothers and sisters have unfortunately had to endure. It is very sad to see our Jewish friends having to secure their places of worship, schools and community centers with police cars and metal detectors, which is not the case with any other community in the US. Our First Amendment guarantees us freedom to worship or not to worship. And it is sad to see that our Jewish friends to go through a lot of difficulty while exercising this constitutionally endowed right. Events of recent weeks, such as the vandalizing of Jewish synagogues and stores in our Peggy's hometown of Chicago, or the neo-Nazi rally spewing false hatred of Jews in the world's #1 leisure capital, Orlando, reinforce the need for both our communities to engage our lawmakers and law enforcement agencies to ensure safety and well-being of members of our community. Who can forget that it was the Jewish organization such as ADL that offered free legal assistance and advice to our Indian American community when Indian women were targeted by Dotbuster in 1980s, or the fact that it was American Jewish Committee that was the only non-Indian American organization that advocated on Capitol Hill the passage of US-India civil nuclear agreement between 2005 and 8. That laid the foundation of today's robust US-India strategic cooperation. One important fact that is not highlighted by regular media for various reasons is that of the dangers posed by the ability of Islamic holdings, European passports, being able to freely enter the US and preach hatred against the Jewish community or conduct acts of terror. We all know the fact that from his base in Mumbai, Danny Pearl was lured to Karachi by a sweet-talking British national, Omar Saeed Sheikh, while British national of Pakistani origin, Faizan Malik Akram, freely flew to US, bought a gun off the street and took Rabbi Charles Walker and 3 of his congregation, Beth Israel members, hostages before they escaped. The common denominator with both of these individuals was they were British national of Pakistani descent. They had spent a few months to a few years in Pakistan before conducting their terrorist act. In partnership with StandWithUs and other Jewish American organizations and friends, we in the Indian American community will definitely be advocating closer cooperation between US, British, and other European security agencies to ensure that proper action is taken and boarding denied to individuals who raid flags before they'll fly to US or other countries. World has paid heavy price because of Pakistan's state-sponsored terrorism. World should act and ensure that Pakistan pay heavy price for its continued support to terrorism in Punjab and Kashmir and other parts of the world. If no action is taken, it will motivate other countries to do the same, and world will have to again pay a heavy price. Time has come. Time has come for US, India, Israel, and other democratic countries to join hands together to fight this menace of terrorism once for all. We must ensure that no innocent like Daniel Pearl is killed by these jihadis. Consul General Randhir Jaiswal ji, thank you for your leadership and role in promoting partnership between India, Israel, and the US, and the Jewish and Indian American communities on the East Coast. And like you said, we are looking forward to have a Hanukkah in next October, November in Indian Consulate. I would like to thank Ms. Shapiro for joining us at such a short notice. And I must also thank my dear friend Nissim Rubin, and who is an Indian American Jew from AJC. He is joint essay to both Indian community and Jewish community. He has done almost 2 decades of, service for promoting US, India, and Israel relationship. Thank you again, all of us. Thank you. Namaskar. Shalom. Now I would request our Consul General of New York, Randhir Jaiswal, to say a few words.
Namaste, everybody, and shalom to everybody. First of all, thank you to Mr. Jagdish Sewhani, President, American India Public Affairs Committee, as also to Ms. Peggy Shapiro, National Director, Special Project, Stand With Us, for organizing this commemoration program. Mr. Sewhani rightly said, 20 years ago to this day, as the world was deep into fighting international terrorism, post 9/11 attacks, we were shaken by the terrible news of beheading of Daniel Pearl in Karachi, Pakistan, by his captors. I still vividly remember hearing the news of his kidnapping and thereafter of his murder. I was in Portugal then. It was a very sad day for me and for all the people, peace-loving people of the world. Remembering Daniel Pearl in New York has a deep resonance. He was born in Princeton, not far away from here, and spent part of his professional life in Massachusetts, only some distance away. He worked for the Wall Street Journal, which is headquartered in New York. And his connection to Mumbai, for us, makes the resonance even more pronounced. He was posted to Mumbai as the South Asia Bureau Chief of the Wall Street Journal. He lived in the city with his wife for only over a year, but made many friends and many close connections. The journalist fraternity in the city remember him very fondly and will always miss him, his professional excellence and his music. Of Daniel Pearl's short-lived life, what he signifies for me, or what his life underlines for me, there are 4 messages. First, he shall ever be remembered for his courage and his boldness. In spite of the dangers that he was surrounded with, he dived deep into investigative journalism and into unraveling the dark alleys of terror networks. His writings from across the world so vividly bring out a life full of courage and bravery. Second, there is no other. His last words spotlight the hate and cruelty that afflicts a society, be it anti-Semitism or hate against anybody else. There is no place for such prejudices. There is no other. We are all one human beings. This message has been once again echoed loud and clear by the pandemic. Third, terrorism. His sacrifice tells us that the fight against terrorism has to be firm and strong, on the front line and in the vanguard. He was fighting terrorism in his own way. He fell to its inhumanity, brutality, and barbarity. He was a victim of terrorism, and his sacrifice should be a constant reminder that in this fight we have to succeed. There is no choice. For if we don't, we will have to face stark and very stark consequences. And fourth, justice. There has to be justice in his case. Justice must prevail, and those responsible must be held accountable and punished. And all acts of terrorism must be held accountable. Daniel Pearl lives on. I was overwhelmed to see the message posted by his parents on his death anniversary on Twitter. We pay tribute to his enduring legacy. His values and thought are being taken forward by the Daniel Pearl Foundation. His life is being celebrated through music and through cross-cultural connections, values that he lived for and died for. The world remembers Daniel Pearl through his writings, through his contribution to investigative journalism, and through the memoir published by his wife, dear wife, A Mighty Heart. He has been immortalized through cinema and documentaries. The youth remembers him in universities, in campuses, and in their journalism projects. The US government passed the Daniel Pearl Freedom of the Press Act to strengthen the cause of journalists. Media is an important pillar of a civilized society, and we must respect it, and we must protect it, and we must shield it. Daniel Pearl has left an enduring legacy. His life is celebrated by all those who believe in humanity, love, and peace. He was an eclectic man whose world had space for all ideas and all thoughts. He spread his wings far and wide. He lived in 4 corners of the world, but his last home was in Mumbai, was in India. And for that reason, he shall always be remembered by us for his bravery, his courage, and his sacrifice. And his fight and sacrifice shall not go in vain. And it is for this purpose that we have gathered here today. Let us resolve to fight terrorism tooth and nail. Thank you once again, all the participants, for joining us in celebrating his legacy, Daniel Pearl's legacy. And as we do this, let us also take a minute to mark 30 years of enduring and special relationship between India and the United States. It may be just 30 years of a modern partnership, but our ancient links go back centuries and centuries. It is that special connect that we are here to celebrate. And let us remember Daniel Pearl in our thoughts once again. I pay my tribute to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Consul General Jaiswal ji. Now I'll request Ms. Peggy Shapiro, National Director, Stand With Us, for her remarks. Ms. Peggy.
Thank you, Consul General Randhir Jaiswal. Thank you for your leadership in promoting partnerships between India, Israel, and the US, for your very important words, and for increasing the friendship between Indian American communities and the East Coast. Thank you also to an Indian American leader, Mr. Jagdish Sewhani, for inviting me to this program to mark the 20th anniversary of the death of Daniel Pearl of blessed memory. Jagdish, thank you for expressing solidarity with our Jewish community on behalf of the 4 million strong and growing Indian American community against both domestic and international anti-Semitism and hate. I must acknowledge the path-breaking work for 2 decades for the US, India, and Indian Jewish American relations across the US, my good friend, Dr. Bharat Barai from my hometown, Chicago. And I'd like to thank Mr. Nisim Rubin who helped put this event together for the American Jewish Committee. We met at a celebration of Hanukkah, and hopefully we'll continue many celebrations together. Today, we remember Daniel Pearl, and we need to learn from his memory. I've had the opportunity to meet his father, Judea, several times, and I can tell you that time has not completely healed the wound of his son's brutal murder. And today I ask, when we remember Daniel, not only to think of him as in his position as Southeast Asia bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal and a courageous journalist, but as a cherished husband, devoted father, and beloved son. In the aftermath of September 11th, the terrorist attack on the US, Daniel Pearl traveled to Pakistan, were he to find out about the militant groups. Little did he know that he would soon be one of their victims. On January 23rd, 2002, he was on his way to what he thought was a meeting with a Pakistani religious leader in Karachi. He was kidnapped by terrorists. I remember when the terrorists released haunting pictures of Daniel in chains with a gun to his head. Days later, on February 1st, was his gruesome beheading. It was filmed by the executioners. And for me, the child of two Holocaust survivors, when I heard his last words, my father is a Jew, my mother is a Jew, I am a Jew, I heard echoes of people in my own family and history who declared and upheld their Jewish identity before they were killed. And we have to learn a lesson. Prior to Daniel's death, many in the media believed that it would be safe to interview members of militant groups because the media was granted some kind of immunity as neutral observers. His shocking murder changed that and heralded repeated, deliberate attacks on reporters by extremists, and sometimes the capitulation of reporters to extremists. The horrific live footage of the decapitation, although they showed parts of it in the US, quickly spread on the internet, causing widespread shock and revulsion, but also a realization that there was an effective new terrorist tactic. And we saw it take place by Abu Musa al-Zawahiri, where he taped 11 decapitations. And other groups adopted the technique of videotaping and then becoming a broadcasting system on social media. An important lesson is the headlines and the horrors we felt when we heard the reporting in 2002 may have subsided. We're no longer shocked and outraged. We've seen so many victims of the bloody, glorified terrorists. There's a danger in letting ourselves become complacent. There must always be outrage from every decent human being, because silence helps the aggressor, never the victim. And the aggressor in this case was Omar Saeed Sheikh, the man who was convicted of masterminding the murder. He was born in Britain and he attended an elite private school and later the London School of Economics.
Yes.
Pearl's murderer, this wasn't his first venture into terrorism. In 1994, he was imprisoned in India, and later there was accused of kidnapping a number of Western tourists. He was released 5 years later when there was a plane hijacking, and his release granted the release of the passengers on the plane. What's striking is that last year, Pakistan's top court acquitted Sheikh and 3 other men convicted of Daniel's murder. And they now live comfortably in Pakistan. So we have to learn that terrorists have no borders. Some may launch terror from a terror-sponsoring state, and others might have passport from our dearest European allies. As Jagdish told us, a few weeks ago, a British national, Malik Faisal Akram, using a British passport where there's no visa required to enter the US, was able to fly to the US, buy a gun, seek out the one synagogue in a community with 26 churches, and hold a rabbi and 3 congregants hostage during Shabbat services until the rabbi freed himself and the other hostages. And just like Omar Saeed Sheikh, Malik Faisal Akram had been investigated by British intelligence agencies. So what we need, and a lesson from this, is that our international agencies need to be coordinated in identifying and recording terror activities and effectively communicating to their partners. Akram's and Sheikh's anti-Jew hatred is not limited to them. Anti-Semitic acts are increasing at an alarming rate. A few days ago, a bakery where I shop in Chicago was vandalized along with 3 other places with Nazi swastikas and broken windows. Today in that neighborhood, a Jewish man was attacked and a synagogue vandalized. A Jewish woman was walking down the street to pick up her child at a bus stop when a young man following her was yelling, "Hitler should have killed you." And these are not isolated incidents. They're a trend, an alarming trend. Jews make up less than 2% of the US population, but we are victims of 60% of the religiously motivated hate crimes, and that's according to the FBI. So our communities and our law enforcement need to ensure that we are all safe. More important, we need to learn, and many of us know that the Hindu and Jewish communities face many of the same challenges, and that we must stand together. On college campuses, the same groups which vilify Jewish students for their connection to their homeland Israel attack Hindu students for their national heritage. The anti-Semitic groups which try to isolate and demonize Israel and accuse Jews of being white and privileged are doing the same to marginalize Hindu Americans by accusing them of caste discrimination. We are being pressured to reject who we are, and we say no. The good news is that Hindus and Jews understand our common bonds. We are people from ancient cultures who face the same challenges and are part of a process of creating modern miracles. Stand With Us has been partnering with our Hindu American friends for joyful events, such as celebrating Hanukkah, Diwali together, or we had a 65th independence anniversary party for India and Israel. We're together at times of pain, such as this solemn day. We're together in times of need. Last May, the Hindu community organized a rally to remember the victims of Hamas during the Hamas war. And the Jewish community in Chicago and in different places condemned anti-India citizenship laws that communities were trying to pass. We understand that India and Israel are 2 democracies in regions where democracies are rare. India has always been a good home and protective to its Jewish communities. Every member of my family in Israel has been to India at least once. And one of them came back with a very special gift from India, her husband. And today they have 3 children. And Indian delegations are welcome to Israel and honored as guests and friends. It's inspiring to see Israel and India's cooperation on cutting-edge technologies. Together, we make the world safer by working on cybersecurity. Together, India and Israel are making the world healthier. Just what we've done in the pandemic is amazing. And together, we're making the world greener with India-Israel water technology and agricultural products. This year, Hindus and Jews, India and Israel have the opportunity to celebrate 30 years of full diplomatic relations and 75 years of independence for India and Israel. I don't think that 30 years ago we could have imagined where we are today. Let's celebrate those 30 years and look forward to even a better 30 years to come. I know that I look forward to strengthening our ties and through our unity, defeat hate, defeat Hindu phobia, defeat anti-Semitism, and together let peace and tolerance prevail. Thank you. Toda rabah, Dhanyawad.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy, for those beautiful comments. And I thank all of you viewers for joining us at such a short notice. Again, I would like to say that India and Israel, and now there is one more triangle I would call it, India, Israel, and US. The relationship has to be very, very strong. We all have to join together to fight this menace of terrorism. And if we are together, believe me, we can do it and we will do it. And we have to see again that no innocent life is lost by these terrorists. So world has to come together to fight this terrorism. Thank you all, and thank you. Consul General Randhir ji, deeply, deeply appreciate for joining us. And thanks, Peggy, again for joining, and we'll stay connected. Namaskar, Shalom.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Shapiro, and thank you, Mr. Sewhani.
Thank you, everybody.